Yeah.
to go with this one.
Yeah. And it's Daniel Jones. And the reason, and this is a 2-quarterback league kind of play, because there's no other reason to be even looking at a guy that's going as the quarterback 29 right now. But I think it's interesting because he was, just inside the top 20 last year in terms of points per game at the position. And that was with a terrible offensive line, which 3 of the starters from the O-line last year are not even signed by any NFL team yet. Like, that's how bad this roster was. Top 4 receivers missed a combined 24 games. Saquon wasn't right the whole year. He only had 1 good tackle. Now he should have 2 if the draft pick pans out, Evan Neal. So they're just, and then you have Dable, who, was there, oversaw Josh Allen kind of growing from a guy who we didn't know at one point into a very good quarterback. And I don't think Jones has the same kind of talent, but I just think everything about Daniel Jones' situation is better than it was last year, where he was the QB 18 in points per game. So, like, this guy could sneak into, like, maybe like a QB 12, 13 in a best case scenario. But even if not, at QB 29, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I think he's definitely giving you startable value, just based on the fact that he can run and literally everything is better around him than it was a year ago.
It's always interesting how GMs come in and evaluate talent, right? Because clearly now this is the second round of management that has a belief in Daniel Jones, at least for this year. Maybe they surveyed, saw they didn't have many options based on what was available in the market. But also what you just said, terrible offensive line, that the Giants just gave him no help, a lot of injuries, Saquon. So who knows? Danny Dimes could be throwing dimes, right?
And Jason Garrett too. You forgot to even mention. I mean, the list was so long of things that weren't right. And I'm not trying to sit here and say Daniel Jones is a good or even above average quarterback or anything like that. Or like this, like it was, because I hate when people say like, oh, well, this guy didn't play well because he didn't have anything around. I mean, that's been the argument for Sam Darnold and all these guys. I'm just saying, for fantasy purposes, he was like just below average last year in terms of points per game at QB 18. And now everything around him is better. So, you put those 2 things together and you could get a half decent fantasy year and he's free. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's good or like they're right for having faith in him, because I still haven't seen enough to make me think he's like a franchise quarterback. And I think he's still a net negative if you're talking about, quarterbacks worth to the spread. But I just think for fantasy, he's free and he could give you, he could outperform his ADP by like 10, best case scenario, even 15 slots.
All right. Your list of QBs sinking, for lack of a better term, your overvalued quarterbacks.
Yeah. Overvalued. Man,
the one at the top of the list.
Yeah. Right. Patrick Mahomes, QB 2. I just think that's too high for Patrick Mahomes without Tyreek Hill. And let's put some numbers behind this. Over the last 4 incredible years from Patrick Mahomes, he's averaging a full yard per attempt less, throwing to everyone not named Tyreek Hill. And then his touchdown percentage goes from 8.3% to Hill to 6.4% to everyone else. And that may not sound like a lot. So if you put it in terms of touchdowns, that's over 13 touchdowns per 600 pass attempt difference. If you just use his touchdown rate for everyone else as opposed to Tyreek Hill. So, like, if you're drafting a quarterback highly, first of all, it's usually a mistake, period, because usually people start one quarterback and it's just a supply and demand issue. There's always going to be quarterbacks that are going to be startable further down the list. We just talked about Tom Brady. We just talked about Jalen Hurts. And even if you go a little further down, there's still guys you're going to be able to kind of stream and mix and match. So if you're drafting a quarterback highly, you have to be sure. And first of all, Patrick Mahomes wasn't even the quarterback 2 last year, and that was with Tyreek. Defenses started to figure some things out. So now you're taking away this generational talent who clearly had a big impact on Patrick Mahomes' numbers. And you're again expecting him to finish quarterback 2 and higher than last year. I just think that's that's just overvaluing a guy. And it's because he has that name, Patrick Mahomes, it's really hard for people when they get to a certain point in the draft and there's maybe like, you know, guys who you would call like running back 2s and wide receiver 2s. And then they see Patrick Mahomes, and it's hard for people to pass on that name versus like a guy, you know, kind of a middling wide receiver 2 or running back 2. But first of all, it's the quarterback position. But second of all, it just doesn't make sense that he would have a season, a QB2 season without Tyreek Hill. You know, it's if he was going QB8, QB9, then I'd say, okay, hey, this guy, this is what he does. He finishes, you know, top 5, top 6. So bet on him then. But at QB2, it's the opposite. He's overvalued. And so I think you're going to want to fade him up high in the draft because he can't. The only thing he could do to beat his ADP is finish as the top quarterback. Like, is that really likely in his first year without Tyreek Hill? No.
Yeah, I would say most people do draft him, though. They're not drafting him the second quarterback. They're drafting him just to hope top 5 because he's just consistent. That's what they're banking on. I'm with you. The Tyreek thing kind of throws a wrench into that. It's like, again, I'm with people. He's a dominant, incredible quarterback, but he was always consistent when he had Tyreek Hill. So I'm with you. It's a little high, a little too high for Mahomes, but I guess that's just the fantasy community feels comfortable and they feel more safe with taking him there. But your next quarterback in this list is really interesting. Your quarterback 10. Where do you have him dropping to?
So Aaron Rodgers is who Simon's talking about, who you're talking about. And yeah, listen, the thing about Aaron Rodgers is, first of all, I think he's like a 11, 12, 13, 14 quarterback this year without Devontae Adams. And I don't think that means the Packers will be bad, but you just have to look at the numbers with and without Adams. You know, over the last 2 years, 9.5 yards per attempt with Adams, 7.8 with everybody else. So that's a massive difference. That's even more than Mahomes and Hill. And then the touchdown percentage goes from 9.5% to 7.9. So that's per 600 attempts. That's just about 10 touchdowns difference. And let's remember, Aaron Rodgers, you know, in the late 2010s, you know, right before you got LaFleur and Hackett's also gone to Denver. But before you had them, Aaron Rodgers was kind of in that 9 to 14 range in terms of production. And that was with, you know, at least one good receiver. It was Devontae was there. And I think Jordy might have even been there for a year at the beginning of that or something. But like Aaron Rodgers, at one point, I was notorious and I was wrong about it, but I was notorious for saying, hey, he might be done. Like he might be falling off because he had like 3 straight years. Really, it was 5, but like 3 straight fantasy years of middling production. Now, his top receiver is Allen Lazard, or is it Sammy Watkins, or is it, you know, Christian Watson, Randall Cobb? Like it can't be overstated how poor this receiving core is now. Like it's not good. These guys don't get separation. I don't think they're going to throw as much. I think the touchdowns go way down. And I think the efficiency goes way down. Now, Aaron Rodgers, he knows how to win football games, so he's going to do what he has to do, and he's probably going to put up decent numbers, and they'll probably win games. But in fantasy, I don't want to draft Aaron Rodgers as even a top 10 quarterback. Like I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, Chris nailed it there, saying that they're in a transition here, right? We've read the reports, we've seen them talk about it. They want to become a dominant defensive team with a dominant run game and a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. Rodgers will sign up for that. Rodgers knows he's getting older, so he wants less hits. He already doesn't turn the ball over. We'll see what this year is going to bring, but I'm right there with Chris. There's so much more upside guys to take than an Adrian Rodgers coming off, again, back-to-back MVPs. It's like that's really hard to keep doing what he's doing. And now you're, you know, not making him put a hand behind his back, but how many times have we seen him get bailed out by Adams? So it's going to be different for sure with this Green Bay team. Now, your next one's really intriguing from your QB 13. I'm interested here. Obviously, we know, again, we're about to talk about Deshaun Watson. There's a lot going on there, but for you in your rankings, do you think you're too high on him already just because of, you know, built in the rumors, the drama that he's going to be suspended for 6 games, maybe a whole season?
Yeah, well, so QB 13, that's the ADP. That's Watson's ADP. I have him lower.
Okay.
And that's, so the numbers that we're talking here with is all ADP. I have him lower, and that's because there's going to be so much uncertainty headed into the year. And well, QB 13, most people play 12-team leagues. So I get the QB 13. It's like, okay, he's the first quote unquote backup off the board. But here's the thing. Like, if you're playing in a 1 QB league, you don't want to be using more than one spot on a quarterback. So you either have a guy that you trust, that you're going to play week in and week out, or you're going to be streaming and dropping, only holding one quarterback on the roster at a time. So I don't like kind of wait and see, stash him, see what happens. That's a waste of a roster spot. Then you can't stash him on IR because he's not injured. We don't have any idea how much he's going to play. A suspension could come down at any time, even during the season. If we don't get clarity before. So like, unless we get some like confirmation that, okay, he's going to be able to play for a full season, and because of whatever, maybe the legal proceedings will take too long and it's just not going to happen, that he'll get suspended until, the NFL usually waits until after that kind of wraps up. That's the only way that I think you go higher on Watson. But right now it's like drafting him as a QB 13, it's no man's land. It's like you're wasting a roster spot. There's no guarantees how many games he plays. And at this point, it looks like he's going to get at least a 6-game suspension. I mean, if I was just kind of how to set a line. So, it's just, to me, it's just a waste of a roster spot right now. I think and it's QB 13. It's like, if it's a 12-team league starting one quarterback, again, it's like, you're going to have guys, Brady, QB 9, Hurts, QB 8. Like, there's going to be other guys that you could just get a little bit earlier that are guaranteed to be in the lineup week in, week out. So, I just don't see the point with Deshaun at this moment. And like, if people, and if I'm wrong and he plays the whole year, it's like, yeah, well, we'll know. We should be able to know that. It's like, it's not something where, at this point, it's just a risk. It's just a risk.
Not a smart draft pick in June is what Chris is getting at.
It's not a good
I
use
totally
of a roster
agree with.
spot.